There
Sorry
you
about
go.
that.
Yeah, we can see the slides. So we can get started. Great, thank you. All right, yeah, we are implementation specialists. Thanks, Amy, for introducing us. I'm Cheryl Simmons, Vice President at IS, and Alan's with me as well as our principal consultant. And you may see that it lists out, wsTOOLS. And so implementation specialist is a partner, and we sell and support both Dynamics GP and Business Central. And we have about 75 tools over on the Dynamics GP side, and we're in the process of building out our BC library as well. And so we're only going to talk about one tool today because, 15 minutes, right? Got to limit what we can cover, but that's our plan today. So on the next slide, if you want to go to that, Alan, talks about our Project COGS detailed posting. That's the tool we're going to cover today. So for those that are using the project module inside of Business Central, this will pertain to you, especially if you're looking at how to break down your WIP/COGS when you get to the month-end process. That's really what this tool does. And so as you go through your month-end process, right, you've recorded all your costs, you go through the WIP process at month-end, and it's taking your dollar values and moving it, from WIP to COGS. And what our tool allows you to do is really take that COGS information and break it down into detail. And so the examples would be, depending on what products you're coming from, you may normally see your detail with materials, labor, equipment, those type of things. Then you can actually take the summary value that's been posted to your COGS account and break it down into these individual GL accounts, and then have that from a reporting perspective at your month end, and then reverse that for the first of the month, put it back into your overall COGS account, and then away you go. And you can do that again when the project is complete as well, one last time on that project. So you can keep that detail if you want in your general journal. So let's flip over to the next slide, and it kind of shows that as an example before we get into the demo. So here you've seen we've posted into our COGS account $900, and what we're doing on 228 is we're putting a negative 900, right? We're going to take it out of that overall account, and we're breaking it down into the HVAC and plumbing. And you see we have on 228, we have $500 going in for HVAC and $400 going in for plumbing. And then on that 3/1, the next day, it's doing the reversal, a negative, and putting it back up into the master account for the COGS account. So that's ultimately what you'll kind of see once you run through the process. But I think it's cool to actually see the process. And Alan, if you want to kick on over to the demo, let's walk through that.
Good afternoon, and thank you. So for those who are familiar with Project or not familiar with Project, you have a posting group in Project, and that posting group is what drives where your revenue is recognized at, where your costs are recognized at. The if you don't call it the shortfall or the fallback is it only gives you one option for cost. So it goes into one bucket and one bucket only. Well, coming from the construction world or the HVAC world and things like that, we know that depending on the task, as Cheryl mentioned, we could be going to a GL account that describes cost for labor, cost equipment, etc. So what we came up with is a way to take care of that. So this is a pretty basic, just a basic project. And this right here is based on the WIP method of percentage of completion. And, it can be messed with some others, and sorry, don't have the right one. Okay, so you have your budget that goes into GP, or excuse me, into BC. And then the main problem is when you go to the planning lines, and the planning lines is where you kind of describe and do everything. What we use is the general prod posting groups to decide where that labor equipment or stuff goes. So we might have 5 posting groups in here, one for labor, one for equipment, materials, etc. So we either assign it at the item level, we can assign it at the GL level, and we can change it on the fly in here. So what this allows us to do is when this comes in, we are capturing the cost from the journal line. So these are the ledger entries that come in. So these 3 ledger entries hit different accounts. And of course, those accounts hit your WIP today. Well, what you'll see is if you run the WIP portion of Business Central, you get your GL WIP entry. And this entry, you can run this monthly, daily, weekly. Every time a cost comes in, this goes in, and its purpose is to pull your information out of the WIP account, which is the 1430 and 14250 in this case, and it puts it in the 5310. And the 5310 in this case is actually where we have on the project as our recognized cost. So by doing that, we've captured all the information we need. We get the stuff in. After you run your WIP, the process is as simple as coming to the action menu. We hit the distribute cost. We give it a day. We tell what batch we want to go to. As you can see here, we can reverse. So if we did it and didn't like the number and need to go back and fix some stuff, we could reverse it back out. So it puts it back in whole into the 5310 account again. We can select one project, or we can do all projects at once. We give it a date, like an as of today. Run it. And then from there, we gave you the option so that it comes to that journal that you pick, and it sits here waiting for you to come in and do something. So you'll see here that we're pulling it out of that 5320, which is the project cost applied, and we're redistributing it to cost of materials. We could have multiple lines in here. It could be cost of materials. I could have another line for cost of labor, all the different things. When I first started with the project and we got into people that we were trying to transition over from some of the systems we've worked with before, this was a manual process. Now, an entry like this is not that bad. You can still get the data, but just picture if you have 100 transactions a month and 100 jobs a month, you're doing that. This could become a very tedious task. We built enough logic into it, and we feel enough safeguards that there's no way that, as long as our general prod posting groups are assigned at the planning level properly, it will actually look at your project posting group. That tells it what account of WIP to go take it out of. It then tells it to look at the recognized cost account. That tells it where the WIP went by via of the actual WIP method. And then from there, our product comes in and it takes it back out and redistributes it to any of the places that you need to. And then from there, it's as simple as posting. So imagine doing that over multiple companies. And of course, you want to make sure that you're able to look at stuff. But when you look at we call it the WIP cockpit, which is the piece that kind of shows everything all together. The WIP cockpit still goes back to shows you the same type of thing. It's still giving these numbers. It's still getting all the numbers that we need and we're looking for, but our GL now reflects it better than what we have in this case. And that is, if you want to call it the high level, Cheryl.
Yep, I know. We only got 15 minutes, so you can only go so deep, Alan. So thank you for doing that. If you want to jump back to the slides, again, just as Alan talked about, giving us that breakdown, that additional breakdown that you need for your financial statements and being able to show that data. And this is one of our products. We have others that are on track as well going into the AppSource, and this is available in AppSource today using the Contact Me option, and we'll get you all set up. The reason we do it that route is we want to walk through the posting groups and making sure that you understand exactly how it would work and do some training there to get you up and going successfully. So if you have suggestions, if you want to go over to the next slide. We would love to hear them as well, as we build all of our products based on customer feedback. And so hearing what you feel is needed in your product to be successful, to be more efficient, please give us a shout out. You can use right here, support@iscorp.biz or sales@iscorp.biz, either one of those. And they'll get a hold of Alan and I, and we can get your questions, suggestions all answered as well. As well, if you want to talk deeper, this is the way to communicate with us as well here with our website and sales@iscorp.biz. Thanks everyone for joining. I know we're at the top of the hour, so right on schedule, right, Amy?